Jilida, welcome to the inaugural pre-conference symposium ahead of the 48th International Council for Traditions of Music and Dance, or ICTMD World Conference, titled Healing, Health, and Wellbeing, Indigenous Perspectives on Music and Dance. The theme of this weekend's pre-conference relates to one of the themes of the 48th ICTMD World Conference, the theme Indigenous Musics and Dance. The 48th ICTMD World Conference will take place this January, in 2025, January 9th through 16th in Aotearoa, New Zealand, hosted at Te Herengawaka Victoria University at Wellington. The World Conference will be hosted by, and here I hope he'll give a wave, Local Arrangements Committee Chair Brian Dietrich, Professor of Music at Te Herengawaka, and I, together with my colleague Kirsty Gillespie at Australia National University in Brisbane, Australia. We are delighted to be working alongside Brian and other colleagues as the 48th ICTMD World Conference Program Committee co-chairs. The three of us, together with a team of research assistants based at the Centre for Sound Communities at Cape Breton University, led by PhD candidate Eric Escudero, please give a wave, Peter Verden, Ulysses Figueroa. We're all very pleased to welcome and host you for this weekend's pre-conference symposium. The pre-conference program will include presentations by Mi'kmaq knowledge holders and then Indigenous knowledge holders in Taiwan, Southern Africa, Australia, and finally Aotearoa, New Zealand. Deloisi, my name is Marcia Ostashewski. I'm the founding director of the Centre for Sound Communities at Cape Breton University, which sits on the lands called Unama'ki. Brian and Kirsty, would you like to add anything before I go on here?
Kia ora koutou, everyone. I'm Brian, and my thanks to Marcia and Kirsty for joining me in this pre-conference event, as well as the team at Cape Breton University. Our sincere thanks. And second, I look forward to welcoming all of you, most of you, to the 48th conference in January, whether here in person or online. Thank you very much. I'm really looking forward to these sessions over this week. Kia ora.
And thank you, Marcia. Thank you, Brian. My name is Kirsty Gillespie. I'm joining you from Brisbane, Meanjin, Brisbane in Australia, and particularly from the Moorooka lands, the lands of the Yugara people. And I'm really pleased to be here today and so happy for this opportunity to connect with you all. I'm also very grateful for the opportunity to work with Marcia and Brian on the program and to meet you all in person. I hope as many as possible in person in Wellington in January. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm joining you with my very dear friends and colleagues. I'll introduce them in just a moment, from Unama'ki, which is an island off of the east coast of Canada on Turtle Island. Unama'ki is part of Mi'kmaq, the ancestral and the unceded lands and waters of the Ilnu or the Mi'kmaq people. These lands are governed by the Treaties of Peace and Friendship, first signed with the British Crown in 1725. These treaties acknowledge Mi'kmaq title to this land, and they lay out what was to be an ongoing, mutually respectful and supportive relationship. In all I do on campus and in communities, I'm mindful of this relationship, and I'm learning more each day about how to best honor these treaties and to live in right relationship with Mi'kmaq and Indigenous peoples. Before I go further, I'd like to invite my dear colleague at Cape Breton University, a professor of Mi'kmaq languages, Starr Paul, to help us open our symposium in a good way.
Guru Bantaru dan delik skodu mula goy giskop dana Liam wolek to dog dan o skodu mo tabiano atan delia makalding. So edawe ne giskoga ani ela wala will like and goy woli agno de madno.
Well, Starr. It is now my great pleasure to introduce our first session in this pre-conference and its presenters. The title of this session is Kepmite'tmnej ilnu'dig. Let us greatly respect being ilnu. This session shares Mi'kmaq perspectives on healing, health, and well-being through music, dance, and language. I would like to note that September 30th, in just a few days, is Canada's National Truth and Reconciliation Day, and on October 1st, Treaty Day, we also begin Mi'kmaq History Month here. This session's presenters include Graham Marshall and Austin Christmas of the Sons of Member 2, and I'll just turn the screen to our presenters. So Graham Marshall is joining us from another town on another video, but Austin, if you wouldn't mind giving a wave. They are both musicians of the Mi'kmaq drum group Sons of Member 2. Maisyn is a Mi'kmaq dancer who often accompanies them in performances. Together, they were performing at this past summer's Smithsonian Folklife Festival in Washington, D.C. And Starr is my faculty colleague at Cape Breton University. She teaches Mi'kmaq language courses. Starr is also an elected member of the Band Council of Eskasoni First Nation community. Liem, who has roots in both Eskasoni and Member 2 First Nations, is a research assistant at the Centre for Sound Communities, and he joins the other presenters in this session. So now I'm going to ask Eric to play the first video and invite everyone perhaps to close their videos as we watch this pre-recorded presentation that the presenters have prepared for us. Afterward, we'll engage in a dialogue. So if you're thinking of questions or ideas to add to the discussion, please jot them down, and we welcome a good discussion afterward. Walalio.
Good?
Yeah.
So you are now no, just channel it. Whatever you feel like. I can't tell you what to do. You just have to channel it, okay?
Yeah.
Ready?
Yeah.
Rolling? Sound is rolling? Everything's rolling? 3.
Kwe, Nidalowasi Graham Marshall. Hi, my name is Graham Marshall.
No, go 1, 2, 3 instead. Okay, so it's like one, no jump. So it's like you go like this. Okay, 1, 2, 3. On one foot. No, both feet. 1, 2, 3, and go back as 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. No, okay.
We reside in the territory of Unamagik, which is part of the Mi'kmaq territory known as Atlantic Canada. As Mi'kmaq people, we've known this territory and in our nation as Mi'kmaqik, of the Mi'kmaq people. Today, when we talk about healing, health, and well-being, There's so many different factors that come into play as an Indigenous person. We don't look at healing and health and well-being in different ways of society and how the world looks at it. We come from a people that has had intergenerational trauma passed down through generations and generations since European contact. Through the trials and tribulations of genocidal acts, wars, chemical warfare, so many different nations, so many different things of trying to make Indigenous people extinct. So when we look at the Mi'kmaq people as being one of the first contact tribes of settlers coming to North America, we have a 1,000-year history with different nations coming to our shores. And with so many tribes in North America that are extinct today, so many different tribes that can't speak their languages today. In us being one of the first contact tribes, we've had relationships with visitors for 1,000 years. Different nations coming to these shores. And yet we are still here today in 2024. We are still practicing our cultural ceremonies. And most importantly, we are still speaking our language.
Yeah.
I come from a community where the language was almost erased. Different people coming in and telling the Mi'kmaq parents that if they want to succeed their children, they have to stop speaking their language. They want to get ahead in society, they would have to learn them in only English. Now, it was very detrimental to our community, and we've lost the language through a generation in a span of 9 months. But through the rejuvenations of our people and through the awakenings of our tribe and our fires and the ancestors of telling us to come back to our ways, we are still now learning and speaking our language today of all the Mi'kmaq communities in Mi'kma'ki. Whenever I sing this song, it always gives me a connection to the land, because this song covers so many different topics, because it teaches me the language. It's honoring our ancestors, and it's honoring what our mission statement is going to be. So when we translate this song, the ancestor song, it's saying the ancestors are coming back, and they're coming back in the way of the thunder. And our old ways are coming back. And in society, when people talk about the old ways, they tend to forget that those are the ways that we are practicing today. And it's nothing that has been done long ago. It's like we are continuing that today, that we want to make sure the next generations continue that. So when we hear the thunder, our ancestors would say that is them. That when we hear the thunder, it's our ancestors are coming back. So when you hear Gokdago is thunder, and so you'll hear it and then I'll do a couple beats. But when we translate, that's what we are translating. So I usually do like a rumble in the beginning to interpret you're hearing the thunder in the distance. It's like the thunder is somewhere in here in the sky. We don't know where it's going, but we know it's the ancestors. Now I'm one of the co-founders of a Mi'kmaq drum group that started in the early 1990s called the Sons of Memberton. Through our drum group, we have performed, shared our culture and songs throughout the world. A lot of different venues, a lot of different teachings. And one of the most amazing things of that was it gave us the gift of the drum, of showing to the world of who we are as Ilnu people.
My grandmother, great grandmother, she definitely inspired me. I remember she would sing songs to us, and there's a video on YouTube about she's speaking to having the kids dance and wanting to have the kids part of the dance because that's how you teach the next generation. And I do remember her specifically teaching me the Guanode song, Guanalia, Guanodaya, hey. She kind of used it like a lullaby and would soothe me. And whenever I was only young when she died. I was 8 years old, but I still remember all those teachings of just passing down the language and passing down the songs. And my mom would replicate that and really teach us it's important to practice who you are as Mi'kmaq people. And my mother always praised my great grandmother, all my aunts. They're all carriers of knowledge and songs. And to always, whenever you get the chance, if you see your Auntie Cathy, say hi. She's going to teach you something. And I found that's always been the case. And sometimes you say hi and she's too busy to say hi and whatever. But I've always been taught that you need to respect your elders because you never know, and it's the last time you're going to be able to talk to them again.
My favorite song that your great grandmother sung was always this one. Now what we got cheese and taste the midges, what cheese? What we got cheese and taste the midges, what cheese? Now what we got cheese and taste the midges, what cheese? What we got cheese and taste the midges, what cheese? Gojua, henna gojua, henna gejua, henna gejua, henna gojua, henna gojua, henna gejua, henna gejua. And analogy, that's the dog, sing while still we are. Analogy, that's the dog, sing while still we are. Now, algae, that's the dog, sing while still we are. Analogy, that's the dog, sing while still we are. Gojua, henna gojua, henna gejua, henna gejua, henna gojua, henna gojua, henna gejua, henna gejua, henna. When I got introduced to the drum as a early child, young boy, the one thing that amazed me was singing in the Mi'kmaq language. And because of that, I made it a mission in my own life to learn our language again. And how I did that was learning the language through song. So many Mi'kmaq songs that are out there today that I had to learn them. So even when I hear new Mi'kmaq words today, I have to process it in my brain through a harmonic wave of trying to learn these new words. now as a young boy of learning these Mi'kmaq songs became natural to me. And in the beginning, I knew how to sing those songs. I knew what pronunciations to put them at, on what tempo and what tone. But as beginning early, I didn't know what I was singing. So as I became older, a couple years after that, in my late teenage years, then I began to understand what I was actually singing. And when we look at that process, it was so amazing, because through so many indigenous tribes in North America, we share songs with one another. We gift each other songs. So you could be a Mi'kmaq person singing a Lakota song. You could be a person from the Haida tribe that been gifted a song from the Blood tribe. The important factor of that is learning these indigenous languages. So coming back into Mi'kmaq, of learning those songs, was so important of the rejuvenation of who we were, the reawakening of our people. And we've seen that as a nation.
Free spirit my whole life. Been a dancer, been a singer, been just a performer, entertainer actually. So when it came down to like traditional dance, I remember Jermaine Doucette taught us at Tim Hortons camp like way back when, and I remember feeling right cool because I remember her saying my great grandmother, Dr. Granny, was like the best gojo ever. And I was like chilling like, oh my god, like I'm her kin, like cool, like. Anyways, so I just think there's so much power, there's so much like empowerment in teaching our kids to dance. I know they're saying right now it's like we're in like a Gojoa renaissance, and I know a lot of people are at the forefront of all of that, and I feel so empowered when I get to do these dances, because it makes me feel closer to my the matriarchs in my life and their dances that they continue to do. And I feel like I'm still on that journey, because like everyone Gojoas differently, and the way that you learn is like just it's always different. And so with me, I feel like I do it differently, and I think it's so important for us to feel that connection and that love. And I think with that expression, it gives us power, and it gives us it gives us like an instrument of spirituality. And I think with me and my journey of dancing, I feel like more connected to my femininity, and I feel very like a proud Ilnu woman. And so when I do get these opportunities to come here to dance, or when I do get to go dance, it's not for anyone else but for to honor and respect the kin before me, and my family, like my generations after me. And I think that's that responsibility that a lot of our youth need to be wary of and be vigilant of.
music, the drum, the language in the music saved my life. And if I didn't, actually, if I wasn't dragged to a drum practice, I wouldn't be here. I would not be here. I would be on, and I hate to say it, I would be on Charlotte Street. I would be on Camden Street. If this didn't come into my life at the time that it did, that's where I would be. That's how. That's the effect that our music, our language in the music, the culture has had on my life. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful. When this came into my life, I was sobering up, and I realized that nobody was taking me serious because they've already prejudged me. So what I started to do when I was 20 years old was try to change the way people think of our people, how they view us. How we're forces to be reckoned. We were warriors. We are warriors. For me, getting into conflict, and especially a racial conflict, I absolutely love that stuff, because I try my hardest to change the way they feel about my people, about me, through conversations. And for the most part, I've been successful in that throughout my life, and it's because of the music, the songs that I know, that I've learned.
I want to say my first place where I learned the language was at home. That's the most important place to learn the language. I was surrounded by friends that spoke English, but at home I was always told to speak Mi'kmaq. And so as time went on, my mom was a teacher. She started teaching at the Mi'kmaq School in Wellington. And I went there too. Marcia was there, and Marie Baptiste, she was the principal, and my mother. So, just to have those people there starting off the school, and they had a vision. They had a vision of to teach kids in the language. That's where I learned how to read and write. That's where I learned how to do prayer, singing. So, that's where I just started building my language just to make it stronger. So as time went on, I guess it was already in me that I wanted to be an educator. I wanted to teach language, and I was 23 years old when I started teaching. And I went to right away. I went to CBU. I graduated and went to St. Louis. I got my BEd, and I went to teach at the Stony High School. It was Mi'kmaq language courses and Mi'kmaq government, Mi'kmaq studies. And that's just where my path went. It was just natural for me to be doing that. And so I've been teaching language for over 25 years.
So when I hear these stories, and when I hear about how the language is supposed to be spoken, and how you conducted your thesis, and how you speak to your songs, and how they influence your way of life, and how you learn language is pretty inspiring, because in my head I'm going through like how I can do it for my children. Like the most just slow myself down a little bit. I think the most heartwarming thing that ever happened to me was when my daughter came home with a drawing and it said Deloitte Lennox. It's like, oh, yeah, it's Deloitte. I was like, Lennox. It's like, oh yeah, that's your name. It's your name, just. And from there on, I just had to. I knew, like, even coloring, little activities like that. I'm always looking for ways on how I can try to make it fun for the kids, make it fun for my daughter. she doesn't like it when I say, "Oh, what's moose in Mi'kmaq?" I said, "Oh, it's Dion, Dad. Like, get out of here." But she doesn't like those pop quizzes. It's important to try to make it fun, and through trying to reclaim our language and reclaiming our identity, who we are, is important. So I'm taking so much out of this discussion here. I'm gonna go to my trailer and just talk to my daughter. My dad's fully Inuit, and he brought me up Inuit, and I spoke the language at one time ago, and I could hear things I recognize, but it's kind of like speaking two minds. It's like I'm not ready to speak fully Inuit because I just find myself ashamed to try to bring back the way I used to speak. You know what I mean?
That's a lot of stuff. That's a thing really that's holding back a lot of people. And people have to realize that there's nothing wrong as long as you're trying. And even if you learn 1 or 5 words a day, and then the next day you learn that many words, and as time goes on, you're building your vocabulary. And people are afraid to be judged. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And everybody's afraid to be saying anything wrong, but at least you're trying. And that's what I've learned too, as an educator myself. In my class, I tell them, nobody's here to judge you. And if you need any help, then I'm going to correct you, but nobody's here to judge you. And they got these, like they jigamahan, nawewasika, deptijida, ewewasi, negumoel uchitan, mountain, mjwajir, ukamulam, kusho. They for the most day, and then mountain, not ukamulam, until down, they deptijida, jigamahan.
I have so many drums at home, but this time of year, this one's always my favorite. But when we have like a round dance, we'll have it like that. But then I put my finger touching the hide, and it changes that. So all it is actually my fingernail resonating on the hide. So it's a technique that sometimes it's hard to do, especially even like when you're talking at the same time. But, it's a nice beat. And there's so many different tones now that do that.
Early on, when we started drumming, it was almost frowned upon silently of practicing these ways. So when we have the longest relationship with settlers, we've always become adapted to different nations and different traditions that they have been passed on. And one of those examples would have been Catholicism. As the Indigenous chief here long ago, Grand Chief Membertu, was the first Indigenous person to be baptized in North America. So when we look at merging those religions and merging who we were, it was really of going through the churches and understanding of who we were and eliminating and erasing what our oral traditions have been passed down since the beginning. So when those two merge, our old and ancient ways were frowned upon, and us becoming and going to church and practicing those ways. and as a young boy, I seen that, and me learning to drum and learning our songs. It wasn't. I wasn't well received, but I had to pursue those ways in order to find out who I was because I found the drum was a very true calling of who I am today. And each day I wake up, I thank the drum. I thank the drum on what has that given me and where it has taken me. I have to thank the drum each day because of that. So during those times, my self-esteem as a young Indigenous person was very low. As an Indigenous people, through that time, we've almost had that oppressive state of mind in our minds. People would say, oh, you can be anything you want and you can accomplish anything. But deep in our hearts, we knew that there was a barrier. And we can only go to that level. And that was very hard to do because we wanted to do more. We wanted to accomplish more. And we wanted to share our story. We wanted to share who we were. A great friend of mine has always reminded me and told me, he would say, as Mi'kmaq people, we are so old, we are new. And when we really look at, that saying, we have the longest relationship with settlers. And yet the world does not know how significant and strong the Mi'kmaq people are. And us being here today speaks volumes. And I know that our ancestors will be proud today of the amazing work that we continue to accomplish.
Yeah. So I have a question.
During those times, our health wasn't very. It was very poor. Watching the different stereotypes on TV and movies, and alcohol and drugs and so much abuse going on to that. I always made a vow to myself to always be alcohol and drug free. As a young child, and as many as Indigenous children throughout North America, Indigenous children, we experience that at a young age. We experience that too young. It means that we have to grow up fast. We have to know how to survive, how to cope with different mechanisms. So, me being with the drum, I wanted to always make sure that when I grew up as an adult, that I would grow up alcohol and drug free, and being, getting kind of old now. I'm 46 now, and I still continue that today, and it's because of the drum and the health, of our people. We see that we are breaking that stereotype. We contribute more to the world than has been done since time immemorial. So when we break those stereotypes to find out who we are, it's so amazing because there's so many different things that we can accomplish of how to make sure that songs that have been passed down, that have been singing for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, we still continue to sing those songs today. And now being very understand a lot of the language now today. I am not 100% fluent, but I know quite a few words and understand and have conversations in Mi'kmaq. The true excitement of that now is being older is that as a musician, I tell the other musicians of the opportunity to know a whole new language. So that gives us an opportunity to write and create thousands and thousands of more Mi'kmaq songs that have yet to be written now. So being part of one of the strongest tribes in North America, all we are doing is passing down the legacy to the next generation. When I have conversations with my fellow Mi'kmaq brothers and sisters, we are always reminded of the treaties that we signed in the 1700s and the 1600s, and the amazing accomplishments our ancestors have been doing. And I always ask today's Mi'kmaq, what legacy are you going to leave behind that will be there for the next 7 generations? Because why are we here today? Every Mi'kmaq is really a walking miracle that they are able to walk on Mother Earth today, that their ancestors survived so much. So when we look at that, we cannot sit back and be praised upon that. We have to make sure that we keep it there for our children and our grandchildren and our great-great-grandchildren. That is the legacy as Mi'kmaq people that we continue to strive for. Through the traditions that have been passed down, it's always so important that we understand these oral traditions, these stories, these songs, because there are so many teachings in that have been passed down. We have stories that predate the Ice Age. And when we look at so much on protecting our territory, protecting who we are, that is so important on what we do.
We are here.
look at it holistically, we are healing ourselves. We are healing each other. We are healing our families. We are healing our communities. And most importantly, we are healing our nation. Healing comes in so many different ways, but when we find out who we are and find out where we come from and protecting our territory and our families, then that becomes part of the healing journey. And when we have the awakening of our people now, it makes our nation much stronger.
It's always hard to go from such a beautiful film into like these screens with no faces. So I just thought we might give our presenters a hand. That was beautiful. In just a moment, while everyone's opening their screens, we'll invite people to raise their hands to perhaps share a comment, ask a question. I just would like to point out while we're opening our screens that many of the practitioners who share their songs and stories and dances this weekend, including our Mi'kmaq colleagues here, the four here, and Graham is also on a phone. He's in a, oh, there he is. I see him. The video's open. We've got good enough internet. Yay. Welcome, Graham. So our Mi'kmaq colleagues will see you in Aotearoa in January. So they are working with the local arrangements and program committee to prepare some presentations, some keynotes, and some performances as well. So it's another reason to come to Aotearoa, right, Brian? Yep. All right. So I'm just here in the background now. I'm going to turn the stage over to our colleagues sitting here, and to Graham, if you might like to open your mic, Graham, if that's a help. I'll let you guys take questions.
Is our speaker? Yeah, speaker's on.
Everyone can hear us okay? Anna Hoofniggles has a question, I see.
Hi, everyone from Ottawa, Canada. And I know some of you, but not all of you. So I'm really appreciative of us being able to gather here on a Friday night here in Ottawa. So this is awesome. I have a question. Just thinking about September 30th and the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, the day of reconciliation here in Canada. And I know there's a lot of thinking that needs to be done by settlers and what, the history of colonization, the impacts on Indigenous peoples. And I think, the work of the group, the group of you who've been in the video, and I've seen a number of you speak in different contexts. And I think the work you're doing is really important for your own community, but also for settlers in Canada to hear directly from community members about the impacts of colonization and the cultural revitalization that you're involved in, and the importance of language reclamation. So I'm wondering though, because I work with a community closer to Ottawa here. It's a Mohawk community, Haudenosaunee, Ganyegahaga, and we did come out there and we visited with you a few years ago. And so I'm wondering if you could comment a little bit about your relationships with other Indigenous populations in Canada, other First Nations, and the kinds of collaborations you're doing with them, because I think, you know, there's a lot of positive energy happening here in our nation around Indigenous issues, educating settlers. So I'm wondering, and I know there's a lot of work being done here in Ontario, there's work being done across Canada. If you can comment at all about, you know, the work you're doing is, you know, within your community and with settlers, but what kind of nation to nation work is being done, or are you engaged in to kind of help build bridges that way?
I could comment. So for me, I'm part of a learning cohort where it's with the organization For Ours, and so for me, this is my first time really getting to. Oh, I don't even want to talk. There's so much pressure now. I just raised my hand, but basically, what I'm doing, and the work that I'm doing is in February, we did a gathering where it was all different nations all across Canada. And we all just kind of worked together, spoke together, and we're all doing our own different gatherings in our own communities. But we're also visiting each other's communities if you can. So I think it's that's what I'm up to. I don't know what everyone else is, but I'm also got a lot of homies all across Canada. I think that's so important, and it's so vital to help us feel connected and keep us having good spirits with one another and stuff. Those connections is what keeps us united, and I think it's vital for us to continue those relations and stuff all across Turtle Island. You guys can talk now.
I also want to mention I was also teaching in the BEd program at CBU, and I also taught at St. FX. And what I did was teaching future educators about the Mi'kmaq people. A lot of them didn't know, they never got taught. We're not in the history books. You know what I mean? In our history books, there's only 1 or 2 pages about our people. And so, you know, educating educators, so they'll be able to educate the kids all across the schools. It doesn't necessarily just have to be our people. Everybody has to know we are all treaty people. It's not just the Mi'kmaq people.
Yeah.
Great. Graham, did you have anything more to add?
What they said. Yeah. I got lots of things running in my head, but yeah, Graham's definitely got a lot to share.
We already know.
Yeah, is that my cue to talk? They're handing it over to me. Yeah, it's great session. Thank you, everybody. Sorry I'm a little late. I was driving on a Trans-Canada Highway and it was a little rainy out there, but I managed. I stopped into a Mi'kmaq community called Wellington. So that's what the beauty of our territory. We can stop in any community and go in and it says, hey, I need to borrow your office. I need to be on a Zoom. They're like, yep, the keys right here to the office. Go ahead. But yeah, it's important, and it's great to see you again, Anna. Us and Anna Hoofnagels did a collaboration as well with the Haudenosaunee people out of Carleton University with Mohawk College, and it was a great project that we helped do. We had Mohawk people come down and talk to the elders in Membertou, and it was an amazing experience of them getting to know one another. And through different sessions and projects, I think it's very vital and important that we talk about and exercise nation to nation. It's so important. And I had to do a talk today at a elementary school in Halifax today, and there was 500 children in this gigantic school. And the music teacher told me, it's like, they know a couple songs. And I was like, okay. And it was grade primary to grade 5. I was like, okay, we'll see how it is. So we got them all in the school gym, 500 kids. And I was like, I'm going to start off, with an honor to honor today. And I was like, if you guys want to do the lead for the Mi'kmaq honor song, and then I can follow suit. And it was the most beautifulest thing I ever saw as a Mi'kmaq person. I had 500 children from all parts of the world, young immigrant families with their children throughout the world, and they're in school. And it was a sea of orange little shirts, all in the school gym. And right on cue, when I told them how to start, 500 children started singing the lead for the Mi'kmaq honor song. It was the most captivating, most magical thing I ever witnessed. And they were so on cue, and we sang it together. And I let these 500 children take the lead on it, and they did it. And it was so normalized on how teachers talk about inclusivity. They talk about, but to actually practice it and to see and witness it firsthand, of teaching them, our ways, and teaching them our songs and our culture. And it was a very heartwarming, full circle moment of like, now we can talk, about truth and reconciliation. And that was the most fascinating thing that I had to say right off the head, because that was if any one of you guys have witnessed that today, it was probably one of the most magical things you would ever see. So thank you for that question.
Anyone else want to add anything, or should I read the chat?
Let's read the chat.
Yeah. Okay. So lots of comments about the beautiful session, and thanks to everyone for sharing. Heartwarming and insightful video. How difficult is it, Ulysses asks, how difficult is it to recirculate the language due to the material and legal conditions of Mi'kmaq communities in Canada? So how,
Heavy.
maybe the communities being distant from one another, right? Perhaps.
We're not really distant, though. I mean, on our island, there's 5 bands. We pretty much have brothers, sisters, cousin, uncles on each band. So we're really close.
You can't speak for any other communities, but Onomagi is pretty united. Like to believe that, but also at the same time too, I think when it comes down to being marginalized group, it becomes a different. Every community has different struggles, and then I think that translates into language too. So I could understand a lot of that projection and a lot of that hurt that we don't understand why we hurt about language. So I don't even think it's about us going against each other, hurting because of our loss of language. It's all grief, really. So I think it's all of us having to navigate or having to, recognize that part of us grieving our language, and how can we, heal that part of us, and how can we revitalize that? It's like those types of questions I think that need to be answered.
Mm-hmm. Also, because of centralization, all of these communities, like there was 6 Mi'kmaq communities in Onomagi. And so I have relations in Bodolek and in Wegoma. I have relations in Shubenacadie, Truro. So we have relations everywhere. Everybody's connected. Like my aunts, uncles, like what Austin was saying here. We have connections everywhere. And what we do, we help each other. We have this when somebody dies, for instance, when somebody dies in our community or in another community, we go and we help. We go pray, we give our condolences, and we give comfort to these people because we're all related. And So we have after the funeral, we have something that's called a soliday. And a soliday is for celebrating the life of the person who passed on. And it's like we have an auction. People bring items and then we auction stuff off, and the funeral expenses are paid for. And that's where people come together and they talk about the person that passed, and we laugh and we cry and we hug, and this is part of grief, and this is part of healing our communities.
Thank you. I'm going to read some more of the chat, and perhaps others will think of questions and raise their hands. Thank you all from Gundangura lands in Southeast Australia. What an inspiring and beautiful presentation. I look forward to hearing more in Aotearoa next January. Thank you to all the presenters for sharing so much of yourselves and your life experiences here. Very inspiring. Thank you. Very inspiring experience. Thank you for sharing it. And you are all doing such beautiful and important work. Wolewon Niawen Miigwech. Miigwech is thank you in which language, Anna? Where you are?
It's Anishinaabemowin. So here I'm in Ottawa, which is unceded Algonquin territory. And so I do research right now I'm working with Haudenosaunee, but I'm living on unceded Algonquin territory. So they're different First Nations with different histories and cultural backgrounds and knowledges, but it's a great place to be. So yeah, Miigwech is what I default to because that's the first bit of Indigenous languages that I learned. But I also, because I'm working more with Haudenosaunee Mohawk folks lately, it's a lot more of Niawagoa, which is how you say thank you very much in that language. So I'm always learning and always so appreciative to hear from Indigenous folks about the great work that you're doing. So Miigwech for sharing today, whatever time zone you're in, for sharing now.
There's always a joke. We're on Atlantic time, and the time zone east of us is Newfoundland time zone. It's actually not a full hour, it's a half hour. So we're always used to hear and says, well, that presentation, I give it a 10 and a 10:30 at Newfoundland.
Anyone else have questions? Comments? Oh, I see Brian has raised his hand.
Kia ora koutou from Whanganui Atara here in Wellington, Aotearoa, and I just want to thank everyone for such rich and really powerful presentations, and it's really good to see some of you again here. I was really struck by how so much of what you all were suggesting really resonates here in Aotearoa, and I think we're probably here resonates across the sessions this weekend, certainly in Māori communities, and what you're going to hear in the last session with my colleague Jerome and Ruia Kavanagh really resonates. So for me, the connection in language and song, but also song is healing and that intergenerational healing. And so as language is sort of strengthened, language comes back, it's part of community, then that healing is really intergenerational. And I think Jerome will touch on that. And a lot of Māori communities will talk about that as well. So I was just struck by those resonances. It's really powerful. And thank you all for sharing with us. Kia ora.
Sui Bang. Thank you, Brian. Sui Bang.
Is she supposed to talk to the mic at the bottom?
We can't hear you, Sui Bang. Please open your
microphone, Sui Bang.
Oh, sorry. Hi, good morning. This is it is 7:14 this morning, and I'm so glad that I woke up early to listen to all of you, and it's been a very inspiring and heartwarming session. I just have a question regarding land rights, because land is very, very important to Indigenous people to all over the world, and I think that cultures are tied to the land. So in the Mi'kmaq community, Do you face any challenges regarding ownership of land and land rights at this point? Thank you.
I think you guys should start talking first. I feel like you're my mom.
Yeah.
Keep starting.
So Mi'kma'ki is on unceded territory, which means it's we've never actually, as Mi'kmaq people, we've never actually given away the land. And through their peace and friendship treaties, they kind of gave some of the rights that they took away from us. So it's all kind of been just we do have land. We have the places from centralization that we were forced into, which is the land that Indigenous communities own. We also have hunting grounds, which Indigenous communities have allotted to, but a lot of it is Crown land, and Crown land is kind of a big term in Ulnu culture because we never really gave the land up, so the Crown land really is just Indigenous land with a title on it. So that's kind of the vibe I get from my teachings and how land was taken from us in Mi'kma'ki. It's always been a topic of discussion where it's not it's never been right. It's never been right, and it's never sat right with Mi'kmaq people. And we do these things called land acknowledgements, which is in almost every single establishment or organization within Canadian society that you got to do a land acknowledgement. And it's a way to acknowledge the land that you're on. This is Unama'ki, unceded territory to Mi'kmaq, meaning that the Mi'kmaq have never actually given up land here. So it's a dispute, and it's an ongoing issue. There's been land claim settlements that are still being filed with the government, but that's not my topic of discussion. Anybody want to add?
Yeah, basically we just want land back, but like also it's just it's a big discussion, and it's also very, very I don't want to say controversial, but it's also something that is very sensitive towards all of us because it's something that we all grieve. But yeah, it's like we don't really own anything. I don't think Indigenous people ever felt like we owned anything. We were just one with like the nature and stuff. So it's like a whole different thing of who owns it, what's really, And so when it comes down to it all, I just think it could go in a different world right up that whole discussion of ownership and stuff like that. But I like the points that Liem brought up.
I heard. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say, I heard some crazy statistic that there's a total amount of Indigenous lands owned by Indigenous communities in Canada is maybe 20% of the national parks that hold places where you can just park your vehicle, and we don't even own 20% of that. It's just astounding how much little land that Indigenous people actually own. Sorry.
And I also want to add, we've been here since over 13,500 years ago through carbon dating. And also, I've also heard that we were even here during the Ice Age. We have legends that talk about these things. Our Glooscap is our person that we have for talking about legends, if you look him up. However, having reserves, we live in reserves, and we were plotted in these reserves. And before, we were people that went to places where they had to live off the land. So they would go near the sea during the summer. Then they would go inland if they needed, in the wintertime, because they were always moving around. And so when we were put into reserve lands, there were pieces of land that were not really very cultivated lands. It was rock and swamp. And that's where Mi'kmaq people were plotted. And so those were the places that we were told that we had to live. However, because I was talking about centralization earlier, a lot of people were to be centralized to Eskasoni, and they had to leave their communities from Wegwama, Wa'amuku, Bodlodek, Membertool. They were told to come to Eskasoni, they'll get pieces of land for farming and stuff, but that didn't happen. So they had to move, a lot of people moved back to their communities, and a lot of their houses were destroyed. And so, but they rebuilt their houses. We're very resilient people, and we're very people that are able to forgive. It's not hard. It's not hard just to, own up to it and just say, thank you. And thank you for letting us survive, live off this land with you. We're getting into more stuff.
I know it's getting deeper, and I told you it goes into all like a whole whirlwind of this whole conversation. Does Graham want to say anything?
Graham's Mason's asking if you'd like to say something, Graham.
Yeah, no, it's just very important. Even the map behind me is just a couple territory and districts of our territory, which talks about the eastern seaboard of Atlantic Canada. And, before settlers arrived, our population was really astounding. We had various Mi'kmaq communities all throughout and covered a lot of the hectares throughout all of Mi'kmaq. So it was always more of, when we talk about coming from an unconquered nation, unconquered, we were never surrendered at all. So during those times of settlers coming into the area, they knew we were a dominant nation, and to always use it to their advantage as well, through alliance, through treaties, all the way down into the New England area of the United States. So during those times, the only way that, they come and our people's populations was decimated was through various foreign diseases like smallpox and so on and so forth, through chemical warfare. But we never lost in battle. Whatever nation came to us, we've always protected the area. And it was just like Maisyn was saying, it's not a sense of ownership. It's like we come from the land, through our creation story. So, we are also one with the land. Like when people want to come and make a grid, for example, whatever house you have, and you have to have a mortgage and you allot and get a deed. And as Indigenous people, we don't understand that train of thought. We come from the land, and this is our land, and it's not meant to be broken up and divided into. But at the same time, we have to protect every single person residing into our territory as well.
Thank you. We probably have time for one more question. Might also be a good time to wrap up, but I'll give people another minute or two if they have a question.
Last chance. Can I just, go ahead, Svanibor, go ahead.
Oh, please, Anna, if you want to, you can say something. I will just try to say something after you.
Oh, well, I'm very much interested, looking at the ICTMD program for January and getting really excited for the conference and seeing people and being finally in New Zealand. I'm wondering if maybe Graham and your group there can talk about what you're going to be doing at ICTM, because I see you're on the program and you're going to be doing a number of things, but can you give us a kind of a little sample of, or tell us what you're going to be sharing with us at the conference? Because I can't wait to see you in person.
It's a surprise. You show here.
Yes.
I have to go then. I have to be there. I get it.
Are you going to be there, Anna?
I don't know, Graham. Are you going to be there? Is this a date?
Yes, yes. Please meet me there.
Okay. My plan is to go, but now I need to be incentivized even further. So do I have to wait to be there to learn more about? Because I know there's a few things you're programmed to do, right?
Well, absolutely. And when we talk about the program, first and foremost, we want to go, and that's how we tell the narrative. And it's important as Indigenous people, we have to follow proper protocols when we go into a different territory through the Indigenous peoples of New Zealand. So, we want to have proper protocol and say that we are in their territory and just get to know each other as well and exchange some gifts. That's what we want to do. And then later on in the presentations of how we can collaborate and how we can different examples, because the sky's the limit on the different projects that we can do and anticipate to work on. And, it's really of coming together. I've always reiterate when we talk about the ICTM and the different communities all throughout the globe, we've always got to remember in the word community, the word is unity's in there. So when, it's always heartwarming when we come together. So, you have to stay tuned because the Mi'kmaq, we're coming. We're coming and we're going all over the world. So hope to see you all there.
Bring your dancing shoes.
I'll point out that Graham will be going and presenting at the Istanbul conference that's coming up at the end of October, the joint study group symposium of applied ethnomusicology and the first meeting of the Sacred and Spiritual Sounds and Practices study group. So that's happening in October. I believe there's also an opportunity to join via Zoom to that conference. You can still sign up. So there's a little plug for that too. Svanibor, did you have a comment before we close?
Sure, I would like to greet Graham and our Mi'kmaq friends and colleagues. First of all, thank you for this wonderful session. I mean, if we can say this is the morning, then the whole day and all the other sessions that we can expect from the other sides, other parts of the world, will also be very much revealing, not only about the suffering that happened, but also about the good practices, actually, how to improve things. And I'm very happy. Thank you, Marcia, also for mentioning this upcoming symposium in Istanbul, because applied ethnomusicology is very much engaged in these spiritual sounds and practices. It's a perfect match. So this will be so good. Thank you, Marcia and Kirsty and Brian. I love this concept of pre-conferences, and I hope it will help us also get more of our colleagues and friends to Wellington. And thank you for putting so much emphasis, actually, also at the focus on indigenous people. I think this is exactly what our world needs at the moment. So thank you all so much.
This is also to thank our Indigenous presenters and colleagues. And perhaps at this point, actually, Graham, I'll ask if you would help us close today's session in a good way.
Okay. Creator, we want to thank you today in helping us all throughout Mother Earth. Whether we are waking up first thing in the morning or getting ready to bed, it's very important of the teachings that you have taught us. Creator, you have given us 2 ears and 1 mouth. Your intentions were always to tell us that we have to listen more. We have to listen twice as much. And when we talk to you with our teachings and how we come together, Creator, we are the children of the two-legged. We come from the two-legged of human beings and all throughout the earth that you have made. Creator, we want to thank you for giving us this day and all throughout the world. May we start this day in a good way. Thank you.
So with that, I don't like that I'm blocking out a presenter here, so I'll just kind of open it up a bit more. Just as we're all about to close our screens, I just tell you about a new word that I learned today. Here we don't say goodbye. We say see you again. So I hope I get this pronunciation right. Starr. Up. See you again.
Multisnen up.